With me we have Professor Garth le Pere from MISTRA. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
A big question around the declaration, right? It's 30-odd pages. Even with AI these days, executive summary and the likes, there are those who are wondering whether it's a little bit light on implementation guardrails, if you like. We understand that it's not binding. That's the nature of the G20. But some have critiqued it, albeit lightly, saying that it's a little bit of a wish list. It's idealistic. It's what we should be doing and where we should be going. But it's a bit light on specifics and guardrails in terms of implementation. What are your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand the nature and the philosophy of the G20, right? It is a convening forum of 19 countries plus the 2 regional blocs. And the essential purpose, philosophically, is really to address global issues, issues that afflict the global commons in a way that invites the participation not only of the membership of the G20, but international organizations, members of the United Nations, other international organizations. So it's really instructive in the sense that it identifies the issues. It's a huge diagnostic assessment of what the problems are underpinning those issues in this particular declaration of 30 pages and 16 topical areas or something like that. And it's very explicit in what can be done. It doesn't say what must be done, what can be done. So it provides what we call normative anchorage, right? So it's really a constellation of norms around which the entire global community can come together to address these serious systemic problems.
So to the skeptics that have been skeptical almost from the get-go, that we're going to spend a couple of $100 million, it's good for brand South Africa, puts us in the spotlight, flips the bird to Trump, as someone has said, that notwithstanding his position, it still went ahead without him. Yeah. But in the end, what tangible difference does it make if it's only agenda setting, if it's only about discourse and direction of what needs to be done, rather than actually ensuring that it gets done?
Well, if you look at the declaration, in each of the 16 topical areas, right, it refers to established frameworks. So those established frameworks you can think of as a skeleton, and this declaration gives it some meat. Take the example of clean cooking, the Clean Cooking Alliance, which is a very important initiative under the UN Foundation, and it's really to address the problem of clean cooking across the continent, especially. 600 million people suffer from respiratory problems because of they use coal, they use charcoal, and they use wood. There's a problem of deforestation, etc., etc. So this is really a very strong initiative to introduce clean cooking appliances in the form of electricity. So electricity access becomes very important in that sense. Solar becomes very important, the technology transfer that comes with that, and also, using appropriate clean gases. So that initiative, has been endorsed by the G20. Now, the challenge is how do you give this teeth? Because you need a financing mechanism, you need a generation mechanism, and you need a distribution mechanism. This is also an invitation, to improve the business environment for these technologies. So the financing for climate change becomes very important, and that has been a perennial topic and issue, in the G20 agenda. So that's a practical kind of example.
Lastly then, right, as an academic, are you in the main happy with the quality of this declaration? And for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, what stops Trump, the incoming chair of the G20, of just rubbishing this declaration, which is heavily inclined towards the global south, and starting a process which is more inclined towards his objectives?
Well, I think you have to look at this thing, organically, because this declaration is sort of not the culmination per se, but it represents, a journey from 2008, 2009, right, with a single issue on global economic governance and the interventions that the G20 made then, to arrest the hemorrhage in the global financial system. And since then, The agenda has become much more heterodox, it has become much more diverse and much more inclusive. Now, this, you can look at this analogy of a motor running. It will go into neutral next year, probably be diluted quite substantially by Donald Trump to suit his whims and fancies, and then be taken up again by the UK. So the motor will keep on running, and I think this gives sufficient momentum to keep the motor running 2026 and 2027 and beyond. I don't think this can be held hostage, by the temperament and the whims of a president who's anti-globalist, who has really, undermined the essential tenets of multilateral coordination on which, the G20 depends. It's really, a tragedy of the commons that the United States, which is the architect, if you think about it, of this multilateral system in the post-war settlement, has really become the one that has allowed it to collapse and become very fractured and allow this turbulence and turmoil to set in the nature of multilateral, the spirit of multilateralism.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.